Hey, I guess we're here to discuss Sola Scriptura.
Speaking
You,
English, please.
Scripture alone.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
All right. So I have my argument based on, say, how things are divinely,
One
by
second.
the
Let me turn
scriptures.
you up. I apologize. You're quiet on my end. Can you speak real quick so I can see what your volume's like?
See, can you hear me?
Speak again.
Can you hear me?
Okay, that's
Am I
good.
good?
Yeah, you're good. I had to turn you up on my side.
Yeah. All right. As I was saying, Scripture, we had to know how it's divinely inspired, right? So I'm going to make my argument to that shows that necessarily Scripture alone cannot prove the sufficiency of Scripture. It's going to have some external justification for it, which is not Scripture, in which I'll give my formal arguments in it. I guess I'll put it in the
Oh,
the
you wrote
general.
out an argument.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, I was
the
just gonna
formal
have a
logic.
conversation. Yeah, go ahead. Give us your argument.
Right, give me a
So you
second.
can give us your argument, and then we'll have a conversation.
Here's my argument in the general. Premise one: all things that Scripture, which is
Here, give me
divine
1 second.
revelation.
I think I blocked you. Yeah, I blocked you because of the whole debauchery stuff. So let me unblock you real quick. How do I unblock somebody? There it is. Unblock. Okay.
All right, premise one: Scripture, which is divine revelation, is is divine revelation by an entitatively supernatural
What does
act.
entitatively
Right?
mean?
Entitatively mean that it's modally like unknowable, right? So when God
I don't understand
supernaturally,
what you're saying. Modally unknowable.
all right. So basically, it just means that it's something to be okay. We distinguish things that God, divine revelation by two sets, right? Supernatural, like entitatively supernatural and modally supernatural.
Okay. What?
Entitatively supernatural
Okay. Sorry.
Quantitatively supernatural just means that the cause of, say, such the passive potency which the agent has received is cannot be known.
I don't
Modally,
understand what that means. Can you put that in simple layman's terms?
all right. So basically,
Mm-hmm.
entitative, anything that is entitatively supernatural is basically meaning that the revelation cannot be known. For example, I'll make some examples. The Trinity, right? We know the Trinity by an entitatively supernatural act of revelation. Our finite minds cannot just reason to the Trinity by necessity, nor can we reason to the incarnation, right? We can't say that God necessarily incarnated unless we have the divine revelation, that which we accepted by faith, right? So all entitative supernatural acts,
Okay. So what
which
does
by divine
entitative
revelation,
mean? You keep on using this word.
meaning that it's utterly or entirely going to be supernatural, right?
So
We can call it
entitative means
supernatural.
supernatural.
No, no, no. It's going to be entirely supernatural,
So
right? That's what I'm.
entitative means entirely supernatural.
Yeah, because
Okay.
you could call it like that, right? So if it's going to be entirely supernatural, right? And Aristotle's
By
connotation, right?
supernatural, you mean outside this world, outside this universe?
like
What?
like supernatural in the sense, that God is it's not something. Okay, when we say supernatural, we mean it like we're the cause, right? It
Okay.
cannot be known, say by natural means, right? It's something that's supernatural rather than just natural
So
itself,
supernatural
right? So
means not done by humans.
essentially, okay, it so basically categorically we're going to define, supernatural, right,
Mm-hmm.
as something. It's not only things done by humans. It's a lot more. They're like something which in the cause, the cause in itself is unknowable, right? That's what I'm saying. The cause is unknowable because we do not know the mind of God. Since we do not know the mind of God, we cannot say that
Okay. So
that
my question is, if the whole thing is that supernatural means that the cause is unknowable, then basically all you're saying is that it's not done by a human, because if it was done by a human, it's knowable. So therefore, supernatural just means not done by a human. So you don't know if it's done by an elephant, an elk, whatever. You know.
a lot more than that, but
How
in a
so?
sense, yeah, a lot more.
Okay. So continue.
Premise two: all entitatively supernatural acts cannot be cognized, right? Negation right here.
What do you mean by
So
cognized?
cognition.
which means
Okay, which it means that when our intellect grasps the thing, right? Human reason is not able, as I said earlier when I was talking about premise
so I
one,
can't
human
think
reason
about
is,
it. Is that what you're saying?
no, I'm not saying you can't think about it. I'm
Okay.
saying that human reason cannot naturally reason to it. For example, I cannot naturally reason to the Trinity. I cannot naturally reason to uh,
Well, we're gonna have to
soteriological things.
disagree there because I believe I completely
Okay.
fully comprehend the Godhead.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that you. I'm saying that let's go to the very substrate of it, right?
What do you mean by
We're gonna say
substrate?
like the very domain
Well, I don't
of
understand. What do you mean by domain?
the very basis of where we even understand
Okay,
this is
so
by divine
so so this
revelation.
is so this is the starting point. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's starting point.
Okay.
So basically, would you would you believe in the Godhead if say like it hasn't been divinely revealed to you, right? Obviously you wouldn't believe in the Godhead because you didn't even know that it was you wouldn't even know it because it wasn't divinely revealed to you. So you're going to need divine revelation to even believe in the Godhead. What I'm saying in the second premise is that human reason is not able to cognize this independent of divine revelation. We need divine revelation to even cognize, say, the Godhead in the
Okay. By
first place.
cognize, you mean think, right?
Yeah, well, to like, yeah, think about it.
Okay.
So yeah, sort of in sense. So therefore, we cannot, cognize it, or we cannot reason about it. So then, premise three. Since Scripture is divinely revealed and from modus ponens, from premise two, all entitatively supernatural acts cannot be cognized by basic human reasoning, then therefore it follows that Scripture itself cannot be cognized by say human cognition or human reason, right? Modus ponens from one and two.
Okay. So what's the difference between
So
reason and cognition?
I'm just using them like say in conjunction. Like we think about it, right? In Aristotelianism or say Thomistic theology, we would just say that there's like the intellect has three acts, right? Simple apprehension, judgment, and reason. So basically, a simple apprehension is how we cognize the thing, right?
Okay. I'm not
We
understanding what you're saying at all.
you're not understanding.
No.
So there's three acts of the intellect: a simple apprehension, a judgment,
Okay, so
and
what's the simple
reason.
apprehension? So we're gonna
Simple.
you keep on using big terms like rhetoric words, right? I'm a very
These are
simple
not
man.
rhetorical. Listen, these are not rhetorical words. These are literally basic. Like this is just basic stuff. I'm
Okay,
sorry, but this
so
is.
I'm not caught
I'm,
up to your basic stuff. I'm a very simple man.
I'm not,
You're
yeah,
gonna
I'm not trying to be a rhetorician. Anyways, um, three acts of the intellect: a simple apprehension, a judgment,
okay.
and
What do
a
you mean by
reason.
simple apprehension?
Yeah, because simple apprehension is where one person cognizes a subject without
So
affirming or
one
denying
person
anything
thinks
about it.
about a subject.
Yeah, okay, say one person, okay, say something proceeds in the intellect, right? Say like I cognize, say a pencil that's in front of me, right? I
You're okay. So
cognize it.
we're gonna have to slow this down because you're not making any sense to me. What's the difference between cognize and intellect now?
Oh my God, it's an act of the intellect,
What is?
a simple apprehension, a cognition or a simple apprehension.
So is the cognition an act of an intellect? Is that what you're saying?
It correlates to simple apprehension.
What do you mean by simple
Okay, let me.
apprehension? So you haven't defined simple apprehension.
I have been, but like I have to like keep starting all over again.
Yeah, because you keep
Simple
on
app.
you're using circular reasoning, right? Because you
I'm
just
not
keep on.
using
You,
circular
I asked
reasoning. You're
you
just
I
talking
asked you the
about words.
definition for I asked you the definition for the word.
I'm giving you the definition, but you're asking me to define it over and over. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I'm not
simple
understanding.
apprehension is when the intellect
Okay,
is
well,
when the intellect
what's the
is
difference
when the
between
intellect.
intellect and cognition?
Oh my
Because
God.
to me,
Intellect.
intellect, thinking, cognition, they're all the
Answer
same
this.
thing.
Answer this.
No, it's oh my God. No, it's not the same
Okay,
thing.
can you explain
Intellect
the difference then?
intellect has the capacity to think. It doesn't. It's not okay. This has to be okay. So in imminent procession, right? We could say that I don't want to be like I don't want to be too big on, right?
Okay,
So
please.
basically, yes, the intellect itself is not, say, the procession in the intellect where it starts to understand something. The understanding is not identical to the intellect. It's the power of the intellect. For example, the intellect is like we could say that it's immaterial in the sense that it has the capacity to know things, right? Uh, it can cognize, or it can grasp the formal identity of things. Yeah, formal identity of things external to it, right? Now,
So the
the simple
intellect thinks on
apprehension,
its own. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, this the intellect itself is is the capacity to think, and it's the power that thinks. The,
So
the
the intellect is separate from the person and it thinks on its own and gives its revelation
what?
to the person. Well, you said the intellect
I
cognizes, and you said cognize earlier means
yeah
think. So now you're saying the
yeah
intellect thinks.
yeah
Well, by saying the
yeah
intellect
the
thinks, you're making the
thinks,
intellect
but
its own object.
yeah, the intellect thinks, but the thing that is okay, the simple apprehension is not identical to the intellect. Is not separate from the intellect, but is not it is not
Okay,
identical to the intellect.
what's simple apprehension or
Simple apprehension is one cognizes, say, a thing that they didn't know in their intellect before, and once it's a procession in their intellect,
what's
they don't affirm
procession?
anything. A procession is something that didn't. All right. So basically, there's a procession in the intellect.
Yeah,
For
what's
example, when I start
procession?
to I'm 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 defining it.
Okay,
So basically, I'm gonna give you an example.
okay.
Um, for example, say you didn't know this like doctrine before. A procession in your mind, or say a procession in your intellect, would just be getting to know that, right? Because there's a temporal sequence when you didn't know that, say, doctrine, but now you know the doctrine, right? So there's a procession in your intellect.
So
So where
what
you
does
didn't,
procession mean? What's the definition of the word procession for me?
I literally just gave you an example
I'm
of what
not
a procession
understanding what you're
is.
trying to say.
It's something that proceeds in your intellect,
Okay.
something that's
So the
so that
procession is
you're
what comes before you can think.
what? When did I say that?
When you said it proceeds in your intellect, you said that the
Yes,
intellect.
it proceeds. Yes, say a simple apprehension is a procession in your intellect where you understand something that you didn't know before. So basically, your intellect becomes more perfect because now this thing is united to the
So
intellect.
what does
Um,
procession mean? Does procession mean proceeding? Is that
yeah,
what you're trying to say?
proceeding.
Okay.
Yeah, proceeding in this. Yeah,
Okay.
preceding, prolating, emanating.
Okay.
All synonymous words, right?
Oh,
So it emanates from the intellect, right? It's the word that you didn't know before. Like say when all humans start to understand things, there's a procession in the intellect of the humans of where they go from a state of not understanding to understanding. So
okay.
that's a procession, right? In the same way you can say a procession is like a human building a house, right? A human doing external things, right? It gives it's always it's just processions and
So procession
and
is a continuous act. What's procession?
no,
Because
not okay.
building a house
Okay,
is a continuous act. Like
okay, no, when I say procession, I say
uh-huh.
like say like you build, yeah, it's like something that proceeds from you, or say proceed like there's a
So
precedence, like say
procession is
like
something that you do.
sequence, yeah, precedence in the sequence.
But
You can say like that.
you said the intellect is not something that you are. So how can it?
What? I never said that.
Okay, so redefine. Okay, continue where you were. Right. I'll just have to go back later on and see what you were saying. Continue.
Okay, okay, conclusion two. Therefore, cognition, you cannot
Mm-hmm.
since scripture cannot be cognized, right? Since it's entitatively, supernaturally,
Scripture can't
divine
be thought
revelation.
about.
No, I'm saying scripture cannot be since scripture is entitatively supernatural, we cannot justify it, right?
But
All things that are
you said
entitatively.
cognize means think, and so you just
Oh
said
my,
Scripture cannot be cognized. That means that Scripture can't
no,
be thought about.
I wasn't finished when scripture cannot be cognized, say, by mere human reason. We cannot reason our way to say, oh look, this is just scripture. It's like a Muslim saying, oh look, the Quran is true because the Quran says so, right? Just because we cannot have any methodology to justify scripture. No methodology is able to justify, say, entitatively supernatural acts, which is what my argument is. So human reason cannot entitatively, or it cannot, since human
Yeah,
methodology
but
cannot justify.
aren't you presupposing that?
How am I presupposing
Well, how
anything?
are
I'm
you
just
not?
giving you a logical deduction.
How are you not?
Presupposing what?
Well, you're
Because I
presupposing
already
this
explained
argument,
to you how
correct?
what?
So
That's literally what we're discussing.
let me ask you a question real
What do you
quick, right?
go ahead?
How do you have the what word would you use here? How would you have the revelation of this knowledge?
Oh, simple. The passive potency that God divinely reveals it.
So
Wait,
God
so
divinely
wait, wait,
revealed this entire argument to you. Is this your answer?
wait, what?
Well, I'm asking you how you
From
got this
a,
knowledge because you're basically what you have said is that humans can't think anything of themselves. Humans have to have it divinely revealed to them.
I never said that. I'm talking about entitatively supernatural acts. I already
Entitatively
distinguished motor.
supernatural acts. Okay.
I I I already Okay, we will distinguish natural acts from supernatural ones,
Yeah.
and then I can say that we distinguish entitative ones from
Okay.
modal
So
ones.
is
I've
this
already
argument a natural or a supernatural? So is this
oh
argument
my,
revealed naturally or supernaturally to you?
naturally,
Okay. So you're
but
using a
the
natural
subject
argument to describe the supernatural, correct?
no, yeah, a natural argument. But the thing is that okay, this
Okay.
is like
So your natural
no,
argument
I'm
is
not
to prove that the supernatural cannot be revealed by the natural.
okay, yeah, because my object
Okay.
is not the subject.
Okay.
You're literally conflating these things. The subject or the object of say my thing is not the argument, right? I'm
Hmm.
arguing for the subject, which the subject has its own properties.
Well,
If you're
I'm
gonna make that argument, then you're gonna say that then you're going to say that they're going to be identical, right? My argument is not identical to say scripture itself. Like I don't understand what you're trying to say.
okay.
Are you gonna say that the
Well,
properties are all
I'm
are
just trying to get
univocal?
this clear. Okay. Again, I'm a very simple man. I use simple words. So you're trying to argue that you cannot get anything supernaturally without divine revelation, correct?
Yes, things that are
Okay.
entitatively
And that
supernatural cannot
this argument is a natural argument, right?
yeah,
And you're
it's made
also
by human
arguing
deduction. But I'm talking.
that, well, you're also arguing that the natural cannot understand the supernatural, nor can the natural explain the supernatural, correct?
Yes, but I'm arguing.
Okay,
I'm not even
so your
arguing.
natural argument to give that the supernatural cannot be explained is self-defeating
I
because your
know.
reasoning is from the
I already
natural,
told
as
you.
you just said.
I already told you that then the things will be identical. I told you it's a distinction between object and subject and object. My argument is not just basing, oh, look, this is scripture. I'm not. This thing is a natural argument because I'm deducing a conclusion. I'm not saying that these things are going to be identical
Okay, so your
properties.
conclusion is the supernatural cannot be deduced by the natural.
Okay, you're just going in circles. How many times am I going? Okay,
I'm trying to understand
somebody,
you.
please,
Is your conclusion that the
please give me a
supernatural?
better Protestant. Somebody, please give me a Protestant who can actually think. When that happens, please.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be mean here,
Mm-hmm.
Romans, but you lost.
Well, can you try to explain it to me?
I'm not the
You're not
level of
what?
knowledge he is, you know.
No, I don't think any of us are. You know, the words that he
Yeah,
was saying were
he's
just like insane because from what I gathered, the supernatural cannot be understood by the natural. His argument is a natural argument to define the supernatural, to say that that no natural argument can define the supernatural. It's beyond human reason. It's a phenomenal argument to say the least.
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean what's also really interesting, right, is oh, I guess he left too. Okay. Well, that was fun.
Yeah. They can't explain what they're talking about at all.
So there you have it. That is the Catholic's argument on why a person should use tradition instead of using God's words. And his argument is that God's words are supernatural and that we only have natural reasoning, natural intellect. And the supernatural cannot be understood by the natural. So therefore, instead of going to God, we need to go to tradition, which is natural men using their natural minds to try to explain the supernatural, despite the fact that he just said the natural cannot explain the supernatural. It's phenomenal reasoning that only a Catholic could come up with. If you want to understand why they don't know Scripture, why they can't understand it, 3 verses for you. I'll post them on screen.